This is Curtis coming at you from Ace Per Head Studios. Once again, doing football talk. Gonna get back to my Dolphins here, stick on them. Week 1 is fast approaching. Cuts to 53, it just happened. What does the Dolphins offense look like heading into week 1? Gonna go over the roster, some of the moves that were made, and then try to get a picture of what it looks like, how it can perform, and were there some strange moves, some good moves, and some bad moves? We'll take a look at it all right here. So I have to say that some of the cuts were surprising across the board, offense and defense. But as I get to the end of this, I'm going to show you the practice squad. And to me, that was one of the it was a brilliant, either lucky or brilliant move by the Dolphins brass and staff. So that's the really good news. Now, the offense was probably the most strange layout that I've seen in a long time. Very odd in a way. So many skilled players were kept. I think some of that's injuries. Some of that is that these receivers, while they're very talented, they're also injury prone. So it's a way of, covering your bases. I think they'll eventually trim down it a little bit, but it's interesting. So, Tua, Brissett, the quarterbacks. To me, Tua looks like he's going to be above average at the very least. Brissett's above average at the very least. Good news is you got depth, you got possibility, potential for more than above average, and then you have experience. So this is a very good group for the Dolphins, quarterback-wise. And I think the skill sets match better than they did last year with Fitzpatrick and Tua. So I really like where it's heading. It's going to be interesting to see week 1, week 2. How does Tua respond? He looked good in the preseason. I did some videos on it. I'm hopeful. At the very least, I'm sure he is much more healthy. And so that's really the good news. Then in the running backs, we only kept 3. But as I said, the practice squad was really like a masterstroke. It was really good job. And they're going to cover the bases. We'll get into that. But they kept a lot of the backs that some thought would be kept on the starting roster. They managed to sneak into the practice squad. So while there's only 3 running backs on the active roster, Miami does have 3 other choices on the practice squad. So you got Malcolm Brown, the power back, he looked very good, very powerful. Ability to break tackles, do that short area, red zone type stuff. Myles Gaskin, who I've done multiple videos on, I think he's going to show that he's something more than the average bear. And then I want to pronounce it right. I originally pronounced his name Salvin Ahmed, but I've had Arabic people, like 4 of them, contact me and say, in Arabic, it's Ahmed. But I had other fans come to me and say he has it pronounced Ahmed, and Brian Flores corrected Omar Kelly for saying Ahmed, that it's Ahmed. So for all those Arabic speakers out there and whose name is Ahmed, from everything I've got so far, he wants to pronounce it Ahmed. So it's Salvin Ahmed. And I like Salvin Ahmed. My only concern with Salvin Ahmed and Malcolm Brown is their pass blocking. Now, you can kind of get around that. You can kind of get around that. You put him into, you have him just really do chips, combo blocks, or put him out in passing routes. Myles Gaskin, though, is he's just an excellent all-around player, and I'm really looking forward. I think they're fine at running back. Going into game day, week 1 with 3 backs is fine. Then there's the offensive line. To me, the entire 2021 season is not going to be based on Tua. It's not even going to be based on the defense. It's going to be based on how this offensive line performs. There was a lot of interesting moves. There was some good play in preseason by players. There was some very poor play in preseason by players. The staff made some moves. Kept some players that were a little unexpected. But if they can get this offensive line to simply play average. And there's lots of ways to do it. Will they do it is a different story. But if they can do that, it will determine the season. And, you got Austin Jackson, who I did a couple of film studies on, who had struggles, played subpar last year. But they're going with them. So if they end up making the right call, they're going to look brilliant. If not, it's going to be a little egg on the face. Then you got Greg Little, who had a 25 pass blocking grade by PFF, who was let go in a trade, came over here. Another talented but struggling player. Now, if Jean-Pierre sees something and he can get both these players up to snuff, again, that's a huge feather in the cap. Then there's Jesse Davis, who is very good over preseason. Now, we'll use that in the light of what we have, but even still, I really didn't see many mistakes by him. I thought Jesse Davis dropped some weight. His technique looks better. His footwork looks better. And I think we could actually see the best season from Jesse Davis. So he's definitely locked in. And then, interestingly enough, Liam Eichenberg, who's been injured, he was carrying his helmet, I believe, today in practice. He started out at guard, but now, if you go on the Dolphins website, people are named what they are, guard, tackle. Even if they have two positions, he's strictly named tackle. So I think maybe they've moved him strictly to tackle. Not certain. Maybe they could bring him in, an emergency case. But so that's your 4 tackles. And I only really feel confident in Jesse Davis. But Brian Flores knows more than me. Jean-Pierre knows more than me until proven otherwise. So we're going to have week 1 and week 2 is going to be a very good litmus test to what is going to go on for the rest of the season. So you just got to trust and see. We can't wait for that tape. Then we traded for Greg Mansk. I got to figure out how to spell that guy's name. He's a center guard. He was kind of like a castaway, a song and dance player. He seems like he's quality veteran depth, maybe. I don't know. I got to check his play, but it really is not much to check. Then Michael Dieter at center guard. So those are your 2 centers. Michael Dieter, I thought, did really, really well. Communication, pass blocking, struggles in the run game, still is not really strong in the run game. And so that's like a concern of mine, too, is that from Dieter to Jackson, with Solomon Kindley in between, none of them can really run block, at least of what I've seen. But, maybe you can scheme it up. We'll see. We'll see. So then you got the guard situation. You got Robert Hunt, guard tackle, Solomon Kindley, guard. And the surprise in there was Robert Jones was kept at guard. Now, in preseason, I didn't really see I didn't really dig into his play, which I'm going to have to do now. I saw him get beat a couple times. I was like, I was excited to watch him. There was a couple of bum plays, but the dude is big. He really brings a physical presence. So maybe he can get coached up as the season goes. So that's basically your offensive line. Again, they kept 2 players in practice squad, which I thought were nice keeps. And so those could be end up being if desperation comes, you could bring him in for backup, not starting. But maybe, Adam Pankey they kept. He could come in maybe. But this offensive line to me is a big question mark. Now, if Flores' wisdom, Jean-Pierre's wisdom takes that question mark and turns it into an exclamation mark, man, it's going to be Coach of the Year time. And really, because there's so much talent around this offensive line that if this offensive line can get coached up and even play into that 18th, if they could get the 20 to 18th in the NFL as far as production, it would be mind-blowing. Last year, I think they were around 28th or 29th or something like that. So this is it. This is going to be a big one. Patriots are going to be a big test. Bills will be a big test. All right, then there's receivers. Now, between receivers and tight ends, Miami kept 12 players. Okay? And that's a lot. That's a little excessive. They cut back on the running backs, and they bumped up the receivers. and they bumped up the tight ends, and now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8. And they kept 9 linemen, so that's normal. So it's a little high. It's a little high. I think that Adam Shaheen had multiple injuries. It doesn't look like he's going to be ready week 1. So I think they kept an extra tight end that they're probably going to get rid of as soon as Shaheen gets healthy. And Hunter Long, he was kind of like dinged too. So they'll cut back on that. But your wide receiver core is really talented. I mean, there's no reason for Tua to have any excuses, or the offense to have any excuses that they cannot create yards and put up points. And William Fuller, Jakeem Grant, Matt Collins, who they kept, who's really came on and showed he's got a good chemistry with Tua. Devontae Parker, who I think if you watch some of my film study on Tua a while back, he loves to throw the short, deep ball. So he'll have like a streak, and then he throws it short for the receiver to come back. And him and Parker had like 2 big plays last year. I think they were both in week 17. And so I expect more of that to happen. That's one of Tua's bread and butter go-to tools in his toolkit. So I think him and Parker are definitely going to pop with those plays this year. At least, I bet you say 5 or 6 times. 5 or 6 times I think there'll be big plays off that. Parker is still underrated from fans, but this guy can play when healthy. But Fuller's got some issues. Jakeem Grant can get injured. Parker can get injured. Jalen Waddle, who they kept, obviously 2 first-round picks, has some little bit of injury issues, a smallish kind of guy. But, you got to expect something big out of him this year. And, I think it will take a couple of weeks. They'll plan it in. Albert Wilson, injury issues, but he's healthy now, and he can produce. His only thing is he does have a little bit of an unsure hands. Sometimes he had very high drops. When he gets that ball, he's very, very dangerous. Then there's Preston Williams, who's got injury issues. Talent like you wouldn't believe, but hasn't put it together. But all in all, I think they're probably going to end up keeping 7 receivers for the season. And I could see why, but that's one injury-prone or injury concern, but highly talented group of receivers. And then you have tight ends. You have Ethan Carter, who I didn't expect to make. I think he was like an breaking case of emergency because of, like I said, injuries. Then you got Mike Kaseki, who I think he's going to have a breakout year. And some people, I was like concerned that they might not re-sign him. Some people said, they got plenty of cap space. But I forgot who it was. A good comment that brought up a really good point that Kaseki could, because of where he's lined up, he could make the push that if they tag him, that he's tagged as a receiver and not a tight end. And that could make it very difficult to re-sign him. But I think he's going to have a tremendous season. They got Hunter Long, who had some flashing, who looked pretty good, had some flashing, but injured. He got a few injuries. Then Adam Shaheen, who I like. Some people don't, but I like him. I think he makes big plays. Huge plays, but he's made some big plays, and I think he's a talented guy. Just doesn't always come together, but he's got a multiple injuries, so he'll be out. And then Durham Smythe, who's your lunch pail guy, who will catch the nice short pass and has done some very nice blocking. Occasionally misses. So overall, that's a really good tight end group as well. But when you paste it all together, unless there is some absolutely brilliant coaching or something that we haven't seen, this is not going to be a physical offensive line. This is not going to be a physical offense. It's going to be a space, spread it out, modern, put points on, get it out quick to these talented receivers and tight ends and let them make plays. I think they'll end up using some play action. I think Gaskin's going to be very dangerous in the passing game. But essentially, this is obviously a pass-first, finesse, agility style offense. And the very interesting part is week 1, it's going to contrast against a physical run-oriented offense of the Patriots. So you're going to get to see a very stark contrast. That's going to make it very interesting. Now for the practice squad, to me, the practice squad, what they did with the practice squad is like a cherry on top. It was very lucky or very brilliant. They kept Jared Dokes, who, they drafted and they cut, and they didn't waste the roster spot, but they still got him. and they can develop him and bring him on. Did great. Patrick Laird, special team guy, another guy who's, does a lot of good stuff. He's very clutch in the passing game. Didn't waste a roster spot. Still got him. Call him up. And then Jordan Scarlett, who he lacks pass blocking skills, and his receiving skills are, he's a good runner though, very talented, but you got him too. So that's unbelievable when you think about it. They really kept 6 running backs, but they didn't have to waste active roster spots. The way they managed this is just really amazing. And then you got Kirk Merritt as the receiver who flashed him stuff. I mean, that's a nice little keep. And then Adam Pankey, who they've stuck with for a long time. Don't really trust him long-term starter or anything like that. But to bring him in as like a depth player, if a couple of guys get injured, I do trust him. I think that's great that they got him. And then Dervel Neto, who you see this guy, he's just like a tank, but raw. So it's nice that they keep on developing, and maybe, just maybe, he can get that last bit of his game together this year or the next. So overall, there are some concerns for me on the offensive line. I prefer a physical offense, but the way they laid it out, the amount of talent they have and the skills, what they managed to store on the practice squad, this is a very well thought out and well laid out offense roster. Again, it's going to come down to the offensive line. That's the key. But like I said, there's a lot of ways to scheme, play calling, matchups that you can actually make this work. Overall, I am really excited. This is the offense we wanted for Tua. This is the offense they have envisioned. They've got it. Now they got to make it happen. And like I said, week 1 and week 2, very good litmus tests. So that's it, Phins fans. I've always said, it might not be the hero I wanted, but it might be the hero I needed. I'm old school, little leery about finesse. I'm not a really finesse guy. You might not be. You probably can tell. But I am going to be so happy to be proven wrong. And I'm looking forward to see it, and I'm hoping it happens. So get ready. Week 1's coming. This offense is got potential. It's got potential. So this is Curtis here. Thank you for staying to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. As I said, I say over and over, comments. I like hearing from you. I learn. I'm actually going to do some comment stuff where I just take your comments and show how smart some of these commenters are and what I've learned from it, and answer questions and things like that, because I really do believe in communication, and I believe in dialogue, and I appreciate everything that all you commenters are doing. And then subscribe, and the like thing is the analytics and all that other stuff. I just want to say a shout out to Ace Per Head, the sponsor, phenomenal sponsors, unbelievable, take care of me, and I'm just so grateful that I couldn't do this without them. So anyway, thanks for staying to the end. Catch you next time. Be well. Oh, and go Phins! Go Phins! Ah!